can stop me. Lynx is a conqueror. No, I'm Alexander. He's no Alexander. I'm the best ever. There's never been anybody as ruthless. I'm Sonny Liston. I'm Jack Dempsey. There's no one like me.
Black Star Sports TV here. Usually I talk about the sport of boxing and I give my opinions on the sport and things going on in it. If you caught my live this past Saturday, you noticed that I had mentioned about doing a video on our people, basically, and really with the degrading images of labels that we've been labeled with over the years. And it seems like from our time coming into this country, various parts of the world, from the time of, well, I guess you say, you use slavery as the term, our people have been always given labels by other people as to what we are and what to call ourselves, and you know, and things like that. And furthermore, and it's played a very damaging role to our psyche, our mentality, and it affects our way of life, and more today because of the way we deal with each other, the way we deal with other people, how we're perceived. You know, we have all these things over our head now, you know, like the stereotypes and such. What I wanted to address was the fact that this nigger term that was given to us, and nigger, niggers, any variation you want to use. You know, I know some of us have been debating about this for many years about, you know, some are for this niggers and some say, nah, burn it out. And I'm on the side of the latter. I'll say burn out the nigger and niggers and any concept of such. Basically for the fact of the effects that it's had on our people in all those areas that I just previously listed. And you know, it led me to a lot of deep searching and thinking and really reasoning within myself and looking around the world and adding and taking away from all the things I've learned in my life. You know, yeah, I'm coming up on my 50th year, well, 50th birthday, let's say that, which is later this year, if I so make it so, you know. But I know in my life coming up at certain times, I felt certain things, and I've evolved into where I am today. And I just look back on it and reflect, you know, on some of the questions that I've had, and I've got my answers in ways too, but I wanted to put this together for, you know, the next generation or the younger person, or a person who just hasn't synced into that as of this day, be it whatever age you are. But more importantly for us to do this to set up a better tomorrow as much more as today, because we have people out here in the world that are, you know, they're always planning and strategizing what they want to do in the world and what they want to bring about. And we look around, we see the changes. You know, there's things going on today that was never, could have been dreamed of 20, 30 years ago. Nobody would have thought that the LGBT movement would explode the way that it has. And it seems to have overtaken straight people. You know, it's like they have more rights and dignity, and it's like looked at as this great achievement to be a part of this type of thing. You know, nowadays, you know, you have the Black Lives Matter movement, which is really not a black movement. It's a movement of LGBT people, and it was started by 3 black women who happen to be LGBT people. And when you ask them, that's what they say that they're fighting for. They're not fighting for their blackness or their people. They're fighting for sexuality. And it's stated by all 3 of them. And I'll do a video on them another time. But this one here, I wanted to address this nigger. I mean, let's just think about it. You know, we was brought here in captivity, beaten, chained, and whipped, raped. I mean, we've been through all sorts of hell. And it's continued down to this day. And they labeled us nigger and always ostracized us and persecuted us for whatever reason that they so choose, based off our skin color. And over the years, it has taken hold to our mentality to the point where we have some of us who embrace it, you know, and you know they call each other's nigger, that's my niggas, you know, my nigga here, you know, like, with affection, like that's an affectionate term to have for another. When in reality, you know, from the very beginning, it's always been degrading. So do we keep this trend going on? Do we keep allowing this to be the trend and the way that we think going forward? I mean, look how long we've been thinking this way, and look where it has gotten us. You know, right after slavery and during the Reconstruction era, you know, they said that we own 1% of the wealth of the nation, and all this time later, it's still the same. How come there's been no change? You know, I know you see football artists and musicians, stars on TV in Hollywood, and you think, man, these guys are really doing it. We got to be doing better as a people. And you always see movies of people playing parts like they're in the business world and all this type of thing. And you know, the world is so wealthy, and we are being fed crumbs, and a lot of us are accepting it. And when you accept terms like nigger, niggas, and bitches, hoes, all that too is what I'm talking about, addressing. Now, when I look at it in history and I go back to our roots, and the first thing that I knew that we were known to the world, the outside world, outside of Africa, you know, we've always been known as Nubians. And you could hear Ethiopian, Kush, or Nubian. You know, you hear that all the time around the world. Other people call us it, but you know that we are all the same people. Just like we are here, we are people from separate tribes scattered around Africa that was brought over here. Just so in that time, previous to what we known as Egypt, we were same type of people. You know, we were multinational, but all still same people because we shared the same culture. Basically, there were certain little things that were different, but for the most part, the culture was the same. In this, these two videos that I'm going to do, this is just the first part. I'm trying to warm you up and get you set up for what is really going on with it. But as you can see from the master teachers that I have here, that's going to show you Dr. Asa G. Hilliard, who was very impressionable upon me at a young age because I used to watch a show on Howard University TV back in the day, man, and it was called For the People, and he had a host, a brother named Listervelt Middleton, and he used to host that show, and he had everybody on there, man. Francis Cress Wilson, Dr. Ben, Asa G. Hilliard, you know, you name them, the scholar was on there. And when I started to realize this show existed, and I just started to watch it every week, I would make sure that I watched it, and I would catch, you know, and I was just like, man, captivated by it every week, all the things that I would learn, and fascinated, because these were things I never heard of. And but you know, it took an effect on myself, and it made me see myself differently, and it made me see my people differently. And that's what we need now today, because this nigga and this nigga shit is not where it's at. When we look back at our history and our culture, and coming up from almost the root of history as we know it today, we've always been known as Nubians, and that is going to be shown to you by these two clips. I mentioned Asa G. Hilliard, but there's also a brother who has a YouTube channel, Home Team History, and I suggest that you subscribe to this brother because I've been subscribed to him for a number of years, and I learned so much from this guy. He really breaks down our history before coming here and entering into this situation. You know, it's very fascinating, and he also puts it in the framework of the time around the world, like what else is going on at this time, while the Songhai Empire is doing this is happening here, there, this and that, so you really can compare, you know, because that was always one of the things that I wanted when I was younger. But it's very important, you know, when you think of the word Nubian and you hear that such, you think positive, and you think royalness. You don't think of, when you hear nigga or niggas, it's negative. It's just negative. There's no way around it. There's nothing positive about it, you know. And we need to change our outlook on ourselves to make a change for the future. You know, we value ourselves more, we'll do better for ourselves in the future. You know, niggas won't care about the next generation or the next person that's here now. A nigga is a person that's going to say, okay, if you're going to give me a couple dollars, I'll sell my people out for whatever, you know. And all these type of things, that's going to keep us in the position that we are in. And knowing that people on the outside are so willing to have us be in this position, don't you think it's time for us to stand up and do what we need to do to change that and bring back what we used to have back in the day, you know? we've been so used to hearing Martin Luther King, you know, I have a dream and all this type of thing and everything. And that they want you to know. They'll teach you that all day long, but they won't tell you about Malcolm X and what he has to say. They won't tell you about the great Marcus Garvey. You know, shout out to him to this day, who had the plan but way back in the day. And I just want to give homage to that, and I'm going to draw attention to that to those out there who haven't thought about this or haven't considered it or weighed it in your heart in any way, shape, or form. I want you to consider what you hear in these two videos, and really weigh it to yourself, and and do some inner searching within yourself, and think. You know, do we need to make this change? Is this something that's positive for us? Will this benefit us going forward? You know, being whatever the future is. You know, I heard the good brother Cali Enigma today was talking on his live this morning, and he was talking about how artificial intelligence is the future and how it's going to take over, and how we got to prepare ourselves for that. Well, you know, being a separate entity of people running around here just doing for self, it's not going to get us in no better place for that future. You know, we have to start somewhere, and I think this is just a little small step into getting things going to awaken in our people, those ones who has the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to take us even further. You know what I'm saying? You know, we are Nubians. You know, we should start to call each other that. We should recognize that. You know, I have to take my hat off to what we would call Spanish brothers or whatever, because you know they was labeled as Hispanic. You know, then there was certain members of them that said, "No, we're Latino." You know, they defined themselves. You know, that's what we should have been doing long ago. You know, a lot of things that we're falling into now, the ancestors would have never done, because they would have had more self-worth than we seem to share. You know, it's like, you know, those are the things that need to change within us to make things better for us. But we got to come together. We can't keep separating apart and leaving ourselves isolated, so we can go out here and have people that are always got us outnumbered, you know, feeling confidence because they have the numbers over us. You know, we're already behind the enemy lines. You know, togetherness is what's needed. Black unity is the #1 thing that can change this whole world. If we come together as a people, then we need to repatriate back to Africa. Yes, we do. We need to go there. We need to start over. This country is not going to do right by us. It's nothing we can do to make this place do right by it. You know, when it's time for them to make decisions, we have no power. We have nobody there that we can talk to that's going to say, hey, you know, these people need this, that. You know, hey, we're going to depend on the kindness of their heart. What is the motivation for people nowadays? Is that the thing that motivates people? Or is it what you can do for me? You see? We're not in a position to do anything for anybody because we need to do for ourselves first. And right here, recognizing and putting into practice a different overview of ourselves, embracing our ancestors, because so many times we do things in this world that disrespect our ancestors every day. And we need to think about them, their plight, what they've been through. You know, you just think about in Goree Island, West Africa, when they took you to the door of no return. And the door of no return, once they opened that door and you jumped on that ship, you was coming over here and you was never going to return. Imagine what the ancestors felt like there, what their hopes and dreams and thoughts were at that time. You know, they would want to go home. And for how many years after they got here would they still be thinking about that time and the time before then? You know, how we as their children can go up this earth and not give credence and thought and love to their ancestors who went through what they did and they suffered through so much. And this world for us to even exist in this day, and we give them nothing in return. It's time for us to arise within ourselves, change the perception of ourselves, you know, and we will put out things into this world that will change this world, because we have the power to do that, and the world outside knows this. Those people that are trying to manipulate how everything is happening in this world, they know this, and so that's why they try so hard to keep us in a situation like this. Anytime someone was trying to get out, if we try to have a person that stands up to you, they take them out. This is easy. They keep you back down there. They keep, you know, it's just like one crab jump out the barrel, they pow, put the top back on it. We still up under there, you see? Because it's not going to take one, it's going to take us all. And we all need to play a part in this. You see? It's a culture that needs to change. I really just shot through this. I didn't really write anything down, anything. Like, I just shot it out the heart. So I'm hoping that it came across the way that I really wanted to. But I know I have these good brothers that have put together presentations that's going to definitely explain it better than me. And to that, I just say, please take a listen at these and watch them to the end. And it's going to be some interesting things that you're going to hear for the first time. But you'll see that one of the most telling signs was that there was a nation before Egypt, Kemet, as what was the black nation in Africa. After they were conquered, was turned into Egypt by the outside invaders. But even before that, there existed one called Ta-Seti. And Ta-Seti was the people of Nubia, basically. And there are 4 golden ages that existed during that time, and all of them were started and ruled by kings that came from the south. And that's another interesting thing that you will learn, is that south and north are reversed in Africa because of the way that the river flows. The Nile flows up south. You see, so stay tuned. Just give a listen to it. Please just give it some thought, and each one teach one, each one breed one. Black Star Sports TV. Enjoy.
Context. The Greeks, the historians like Herodotus and Diodorus. Herodotus specifically, he says, yo, these Nubians just might be the most ancient people on the planet. And he also said that Nubia is the motherland of Egypt. And more importantly, he said Egypt was a colony of Nubia. Diodorus, he said, this other Greek historian, he said that, yo, these Egyptians, their ways, their mannerisms, their culture, their religion, they all come from Ethiopians. And to the Greeks, Ethiopians were Nubians, or people in that region. So we have to remember to put it in a proper historical context. We can't completely disregard what these Nubians are telling these Greeks. These Nubians are saying, yo, Egypt is a colony of us. Like, we're the motherland, we're the origin, this is where the culture comes from. So we can't disregard these ancient historians. We have to delve into this and have some discourse about, what this really means. So basically, the 25th dynasty of Egypt was a Nubian dynasty. Now these Nubian kings went up into Egypt and they conquered it. And one of the most significant things about this dynasty was Egypt flourished as a cultural and revolutionary restoration. There was a cultural, religious restoration of Egypt, and in that time period, these Nubian kings would go up to Egypt and try and restore the culture, the artifacts. These kings would build pyramids. They would restore temples and even restore religious literature and texts. So, what does that tell us today? These kings, the first one, Kashta, Pi, Shabaka, Shibiku, Taharka, one of my personal favorites, and Tantamani. All these kings, most of them went up into Egypt and started restoring the culture and the religion and started building pyramids and restoring temples. Now we say to ourselves, why did these guys do this? Like, what were they doing? And then we realized that they knew who they were. They knew they were restoring what was theirs, their origin. Egypt came from Nubia. That was their mindset. So they were restoring what was theirs. They were restoring Egypt. They didn't want it lost. Egypt is in the middle of a lot of different nations and people. To the west, you got Libyans. To the north, you got, Assyrians, Asiatics. And so there was a lot of conflict between who's going to have influence over Egypt. So the Nubians, knowing that Egypt is a colony of them, they wanted to restore that culture. One theory is that King Pi was one of the main drivers to do this. King Pi is significant because he's the first guy that unified Egypt and Nubia. Now the first guy to go up there was Kashta. Now Kashta, he was in control of Upper Egypt, but he didn't really dominate the whole region. It was King Pi that gets credit for combining Nubia and Egypt. And so King Pi, he went up there and he conquered Egypt, and he created this huge stela. This stela is like 6 feet tall, weighs like 4 to 6 tons. It has 159 lines on it. And pretty much King Pi was boasting about his victory, and he said something that was so significant to this theory of cultural restoration. He said, yo, the reason why I went up into Egypt is because they were rebelling. Now, why would he say that? He also said, this is a holy war. Before this dude, King Pi, even went up there, he said to his army, yo, I want you guys to cleanse yourself spiritually, mentally, and physically in the river. And King Pi himself sacrificed an animal to go up there and restore Egypt and conquer Egypt. One of the most significant things about what this dude did was he went up to Egypt on a boat, and after he conquered Egypt, he came right back down to Nubia, to his homeland. And one of the kings of Egypt, one of the lords in one of the regions, there were many different regions, one of the kings was just like, yo, okay, I realize you conquered us, but I don't want to pay homage to you people. And King Pi was just like, okay, that's cool, like I'm not tripping over that. So we realized that King Pi was more interested in the restoration of Egypt, not conquering Egypt. And we see that in his Victoria Stela, what he wrote down, and he forgave his enemies, and he restored and renewed the culture. And the kings after him, Shabaka, he went up into Egypt, and he went into a temple one day, and in this temple he saw this religious text, and he saw the text was being just demolished by these worms. And this affected Shabaka so much that he was like, yo, I want you guys to write down everything you see in that text, and I want you to put it on this stone so it will last forever, hands down. And today, this stone is known as the Shabaka stone. This tells us that, yo, these Nubian kings were not interested in conquering Egypt. They were interested in restoring their culture, their religion, even their language and their literature. And in a time where there was a lot of conflict with the Assyrians, these kings were interested in preserving themselves and their people. And so King Taharqa himself, he also was in a golden age of Egypt when he was up there. He started rebuilding temples and restoring pyramids and restoring the literature and creating new literature and really influencing not only Egypt but the Levant region. And so the Assyrians were in huge conflict with King Taharqa. We have to remember to put it, like I said, in a historical perspective. A lot of people would tell you that, you know, the origins of Egypt is a mystery. But we have to listen to these ancient people, the Greeks, the Nubians themselves, because they have agency in their history, and we must listen to them. Even in the Old Kingdom, they made a prophecy. It's called the prophecy of Nefertiti. Now, Nefertiti said that, yo, there's going to be a king from the south who's going to come up into Egypt and restore Egypt, and he's going to be from Taseti. Now, like I said in my last video, Taseti means land of the bow, because these Nubians were excellent bowmen. So we realized that, yo, this was an ancient prophecy. These Egyptians themselves, they knew their origin, and they knew there was going to be a time where there was going to be some perversion of the religion. That's what the prophecy of Nefertiti is talking about.